Hello and welcome to another Red Shirt podcast with Vernon and Nigel. Nigel, the New Year's come and, well, it's just the same sort of misery and the same sort of frustrations and problems. If we
Yeah.
had our resolutions were obviously to have a brighter 2022 and to have, enjoy the team that we follow.
Yeah.
But obviously, we get to sort of like Monday's game because we were going to review the Wolves game on Monday, 5:30 kickoff. And let's just say, Nigel, it was painful.
It was very insightful. And I mean, I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but I am concerned. I'm concerned that there's a lot of things going on at the moment that and I think it's that whole thing that you hear the fan base, you hear everyone's beginning to panic and beginning to question whether Ralf is actually the guy if he's flattering to deceive. I mean, the reality is he's not had a long time with the players, genuinely because of the whole COVID thing and them having to train in small bubbles. So, there's a lot of things that aren't quite, he's not really had the opportunity. That said, there's only a finite amount of time for people to buy into the project. And I'm worried, and that's why I'm worried. I think the longer this goes on, the less credible he appears, the less people are going to buy into what he wants to do. And it could almost unravel before it's even had a chance to start. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I think it's a very interesting point because obviously, you're at the game and you're listening to people, you're listening to their opinions. And obviously there are people who say, well, we never had this under Ollie. And you're thinking, there's a lot of short memories,
We certainly did. Exactly.
I mean, look, let's get it out there and let's be really honest. Yeah. United have tremendous individuals when it comes to the players that they've got and the squad that they've got. Yeah. I think you look at United and they will win more games, or they should do on paper, than they actually lose because of the individuals that they've got. Now, the problem that you have got is it's the attitude and the mentality of players.
Yeah.
And that has been you want to call it a pandemic, which has been over the last 3 or 4 managers that have been at the club. It goes to mentality and hard work. And I don't know about you, Nigel, but I'm sure within the first couple of minutes you were worried.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll come on to individual players, but Matt McTominay had a great game, the last game, and deservedly was trusted by the manager. And then who was that guy that turned up against Wolves? It certainly wasn't the same player, was it?
Well, no, I mean, it was quite interesting because obviously there was a shortage of centre halves. I mean, that saw the reintroduction of Mr. Jones.
I'm so glad you mentioned his name before you say another word. I'm the guy that's got a record of saying I'll happily carry him to the nearest club that wants him on my back. But how can things are bad when he was actually our man of the match? Having not played for 2 years, we would always talk about warming up, playing these a few games to get into his stride. He comes in and he's actually our player of the match.
I mean,
that's amazing.
I mean, he was man of the match, and in fairness to him, and because I was actually at the game, the fans backed him. There was no sort of, there was no sort of resentment. There was no sort of booing him. Yeah. The thing is the United fans, match-going United fans, and most United fans recognise if somebody's willing to put in hard graft and work, that's good enough for them. We come from,
and you're absolutely right. And I think that's the thing about United fans. We're very quick to criticise, but we're also very quick to forgive and to apologise when we need to. And I think that's a good thing about us Manx. Okay, some people may have agendas, and I certainly was one that had one, not without reason, not without justification for Phil Jones. Everybody wants every United player to be brilliant, but the reality was he just lost his way. And obviously injuries and everything else had beset his career. But fair play, he played well.
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
play well, and I think we're quick to recognise that
Yeah.
he did. I mean, he came in, obviously. At the end of the day, he's a professional footballer, and he's gonna,
Yeah.
he has to keep himself fit.
Yeah.
And obviously there were injuries to, there was an absence of Maguire, Lindelof, and Bally. But I think the frightening thing for me was within the first 5 minutes, I could see within the midfield area that we were, swamped. Wolves had done their homework, they'd put the numbers in there, and United just seemed absolutely, there wasn't enough players within that position.
Well, this is where this is where maybe Ralf has let himself down, in that everybody knows, that, Wolves are full of runners. So you got to play Matic very carefully and very smartly. It's not every game he can play, because he can quite easily get overrun very, very quickly. He's not the same Matic of 5 years ago. So this was obviously a game that screamed for someone like Fred, or even a Van der Beek. Well, more Fred than Van der Beek, that's supposed to be fair, because you needed somebody who was just going to, have a lot of energy and interrupt their play. And Mattis is not that guy, unfortunately, not anymore. So you need half an hour at the end, or 10 minutes at the end, that's fine. But you can't start him against Wolves and expect, us to have any kind of control in the middle of that park.
I mean, for me, the scary thing for me is, as well, I look at, like, our first choice fullbacks in Wan-Bissaka and like Shaw, and you could easily replace them two, I think, now. I know a lot of people might think I'm a bit harsh, but I just think, like, you have to defend. You know what I mean? You have to defend. Yeah, that's what their job's to do.
Yeah.
And I think the question marks about their positioning, I think there are questions about how they play. And it was quite interesting, because I was listening to what Shaw said after the game. And he was talking about players, about players' attitude and application. And so my question now, Nigel, is, and I think we've got to discuss it. People talk about systems, but is it the system, or is it the lack of mental ability? A lack of mentality and application and hard work from the players that we've got.
Do you know what? It's really interesting what he said. And the first thing he said was what we said actually last game, which was, in any game, first 10 minutes, you've got to earn the right to play your football. And it's what he said, first 10 minutes, we're supposed to be imposing our game so that we can play the football we want. But there was no desire to impose our game, is what I read to what he was saying. And I think that's endemic at the moment. I think that's endemic through the team. You mentioned Wan-Bissaka and him, and you think, well, actually, the other two that came in, Tellez and what's his name again?
Dalot.
Yeah. Okay. They seem to understand more what Ralf wants and how Ralf wants to set up and play. And so obviously he's tried these two and it's just not worked. And I think everyone's backing. It's almost like the muscle memory is still conditioned from the Solskjaer days. So everyone's gone back to. It drove me mad. You probably saw it yourself when Shaw would run up to maybe the halfway line and he's turning around again and playing the ball backwards. I'm like, that's not the Ralf football. That's not the way we're supposed. That's Ollie. So why has everybody gone back into Ollie mode? I said, I was furious. And then when he came out at the end, I'm like, well, maybe you're the wrong person to come out here and do the post-match press conference, because really, for me, you're one of the biggest culprits of the wrong mentality when we need the right mentality. And I would much rather just stick with Tellez and stick with Dalot, even to have the occasional bad game, stick with them. But just going on to the mentality, you can't legislate for a player not being able to play a 5-yard pass. And the amount of times we just turned over the ball, and the one from Rashford where he overhit it, it was just like, something absolutely has to change. This is not the manager. The manager's not asking you to misplace your balls like that. So you're absolutely right. It's got to be mentality.
I mean, some people, Nigel, I don't know about you, but sometimes I like to misplace my balls. But then that's
Oh my days, Vernon.
you know,
I knew it was coming. I could see the twinkle in your eye.
that's for another place and another podcast.
Definitely another podcast. You're joking.
But anyway, we'll use the word misplaced passes in future, Nigel. Yeah, just in case we get the wrong sort of followers on our podcast. But anyway, I mean, I go back to that because obviously that pass from Rashford. I mean, it's quite interesting because I thought like Sancho had. It was just one of the strangest games that I've seen in play. He just couldn't get into the rhythm. He just couldn't get into the game. There was misplaced passing. The whole midfield just looked, disjointed. There was no rhythm to it. And then you come across a team, and this is the point that I wanted to make from the intro. And to me, Manchester United, this United team will beat most teams when it comes to, playing them, because as individuals, they are far better. And there is actually a good squad of players there and some really, really, talented individuals. However, you look at the teams that they get beat by, it's always the same sort of teams, well-drilled, organized teams that work hard, pass and move, and very, very sure of what they're doing. And I was watching Wolves, and you can tell because the attitude is taken from the training ground onto the pitch, and you can tell that at the training ground they worked hard. You can see the fitness levels. They work hard. You know what I mean? They know their jobs. They're very organized. With Neves and Moutinho, you've got two very good, central midfielders, very good midfielders. And you can just see their roles, and I think this is the problem with United. It's the same all the time,
I'm convinced, and I think you're hitting the nail bang on the head. I'm convinced. I think our players are scared. I think our players lack confidence. And I don't think that's anything to do with Ralf. I think that's everything to do with the cliques. That, you hear about the cliques building up at United. And if players are being undermined by other players and there's no togetherness, it doesn't matter how great you are individually, it's just never going to work. Everybody's into self-preservation mode. So it's rather than take a risk, I'm now just going to play the ball safe so I can't get into trouble, so nobody can lambast me at the end of the game. It's evident that the confidence is gone, the mentality is gone. So the psychologist we brought in has got his work cut out, hasn't he? Because he really needs to get into those players' heads and get them all believing in themselves again, because it's just awful. You can see the fact that everyone's shrunk by literally, half the size, or all shadows of their former self. It's really worrying.
Well, it is worrying because you look at sort of like, in the end, he started, like towards the end of the game, he kind of like Cavani went into midfield. And you're kind of thinking like, well, what's kind of happening here? Because you could see the back five of sort of like Wolves from where I'm sitting. And you could see that they were just, what they were doing, they was just making sure that there was no space. There was no space for United to go into. But however, once they get the ball, they break pretty quickly. Because they've always always got that assurance that there's five of them at the back,
But but do you know what I mean? It gets. I mean, I was sat there, and obviously I'm texting you and texting everybody else, and you forget about the fact that our forwards between Ronaldo and Cavani, they've not got the energy levels that they used to have. So if you're Wolves, that's exactly what you press them up. Eventually, they get frustrated because they're getting no service, so they're dropping into midfield. But it's not like they can burst at a pace and get at the ball if you pull it over the top. So we start to see the ball go over the top. There's nobody there because they're in midfield trying to hold it. And it's like, it's the perfect game plan if you're Wolves. This is exactly how you play against United, where the two main strikers are two aging strikers because they haven't got the energy levels that they had 10, 15 years ago. So it was just, we played right into their hands. And I think, and the worrying thing is, everybody now has seen that blueprint and think that's how you take out United.
I mean, it's interesting because I mean, we were very quick to praise him against, you know, like the Newcastle game, where obviously, you know, it wasn't working. You know, it wasn't working, and he changed it at half time. What I couldn't understand on like Monday was that it was evident that it wasn't, you know, it wasn't working. And again, Donny van der Beek didn't come on, did he?
No. I mean, you know what? At one level, there comes a time where you've got to think, okay, obviously Ollie didn't trust him, and he gave him the other chance. And even when he came on, okay, he was no worse than what everybody else was playing, but then at the same time, he didn't like make a statement. In the same way Bruno made a statement. When Bruno first played for United, it was like, wow, he made a statement, I've arrived. And Donny's never really made a statement. He's always been competent, but never set his opportunity on fire. And so you get Ralf who comes in, and we've talked about the fact that under a Ralf system, this is ideal for someone like Donny. You know what I mean? It's intellectual football. You know, it's more than just passion. You know, passion is passion on the Ollie, but now we've got somebody who has some strategy and knows how to build a team and how to control a game. This is ideal for Donny. Donny's not getting an opportunity. So something is going on in training where these managers are saying, I don't see anything. I don't see enough. So at some point, we've got to just accept he's not taking his opportunities either on training or on the pitch.
Well, exactly, because I mean that's where the hard work's done, and you know he's obviously, you know, he's constantly getting overlooked. So you know, and it's quite interesting because I heard like Roy Keane say the other week, and I've heard other people mention that, you know, either ex-players that, well, is Donny Beek all of that? You know, is he? You know, because what happens usually is when a player can't get into his team, and if the team are going through a bad run, that player's stock rises. Where there is a reason why they're not in the team in the first place, and you know, it's quite interesting. I mean, obviously we lost to a João Moutinho goal. I mean, he scored in the 82nd minute, and obviously it was a breakaway. Unfortunately, you know, Traore broke on us. You know, he left Shaw, put the crossover. Do you know what I mean? He probably sort of like dropped half a ton of baby oil on the, you know, on the pitch after that run. But you know, the ball, you know, dropped to Moutinho. He took his goal well. You've got to say that he took his goal well. It had been coming.
It had been coming.
Exactly. Yeah, it had been coming, and it was quite interesting because I just thought to myself, you know, like he's got to get the players now. Is this the time, you know, for the club to sort of like say, okay, then Ralf, who do we need and who can you get to come in? Because it needs freshening up, doesn't it, Nigel?
Yeah, absolutely. What he needs is very quickly to understand which players are prepared to pull the socks up and play for him. And at the moment, there's precious few. So if that means you play the kids and you get one or two people in from the, you know, that he may know that he can maybe get on loan, or, you know, can get like a very sort of good deal. Because he was known for the deal, wasn't he? So, I mean, he's already talked about players that we've never heard before that we might be interested in going for. It's just, obviously, it's not happened yet. But that there's so many players that want away, because I think for so many of them, the opportunity, United is no longer attractive to them because they've had an awful experience at United, you know, always being on the cusp and never getting in. So, or it's someone like a Pogba where he's never really fulfilled his potential there. So there's a lot of players that want away. Marshall wants away. And it's like, you can't keep them. I mean, he's talking about, well, I'm not going to let them go. It means we're going to be depleted. But sometimes you've got to let them go because their energy or their attitude is just not helping the players that are there to pull the socks up. I think, obviously, Greenwood scored how many goals before Ronaldo turned up? And now he's only scored one in so many games. So there's so much things going on, so many dynamics at play, like we talked about before. And I'm, like I said, I'm just concerned that it's all going to unravel before Ralf gets the chance to fix the problem. It's fighting fires, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he is fighting fires. And, you know, it's quite interesting, some of the criticism that's come out, because people, you know, the ex-players that are saying, you know, that they're unhappy. There are obviously leaks coming from the dressing room, but usually you get the leaks when the players who have basically been told, you know, a few home truths about themselves, and then, you know, that they've got no plans for them to be in the, you know, the future lies somewhere else, they'll come out with these, you know, like these sort of like leaks. And it's interesting. I mean, I was reading, you know, yesterday that there's up to 11 players that could go. And I'm looking at that team and I'm thinking, well, if 11 players do go, will it be a bad thing? Because if it, you know, if the right sort of mindset comes in, then that's what we want. Because you look at sort of like, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you look at City and you look at like Liverpool, and it's all about mindset and mentality in it, and fitness. You know, these guys, they're fit as teams, they're fit. Now, this result left us in 7th position on 31 points, Nigel. Do we feel as a, you know, do we feel that top 4 is still achievable? I mean, like, you know, Tottenham and Arsenal are putting runs together constantly, aren't they?
Well, again, we're in the middle of the best possible run of fixtures that we could possibly ask for. You know, so I maintain from the very beginning, we should be winning every one of these games. Just some tough ones, but we should be winning them all. There is still, even now, the opportunity. I mean, he has a week, doesn't he? Although I was very disappointed to learn that all the players have got 2 days off. I'm like, 2 days off? You just lost. So I want you in all week. We're going to fix all of these problems, you know, and we're going to, by the time we get to Aston Villa on Sunday, we're going to be, on Monday, we're going to be a different team. But 2 days off, you're now just limiting the options you've got in terms of trying to fix the problems.
I mean, they may have done that, Nigel, because obviously COVID's on the rise, isn't it? You know, the cases are going through. I mean, Liverpool have asked for tomorrow's game, you know, to be called off because they say, you know, injuries and the number of cases. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think you've got to like be pretty honest at the moment. It'll be, you know, maybe they're doing it to keep the, you know, the training ground clear for a couple of days, you know, get the, you know, get the bodies where they should be, you know, the number of games that they've had over the last couple of days.
They've absolutely got to communicate that, because I think part of this problem now is ensuring that, you know, Ralf is not, you know, that he doesn't lose the confidence of the fans and everybody. And not so much the media, because who cares about the media, but they will, you know, they're not going to be as nice to him as they were to Ollie, I don't think. I just think Ollie was a nice guy. No, very quickly. Very quickly, the media can turn on him. In fact, you already see it, that they're asking more pointed questions, I feel. And so it's just, okay, it makes sense if that's the reason, you know, then fair enough.
I mean, I mean, like usually because they've had to get, you know, the run of games. I'm just thinking, and then obviously they've got then 2 days off and then 5 days worth of training until like the Villa game. I mean, that brings us to actually the Villa game, Nigel, doesn't it? Because obviously we play Aston Villa. It's the FA Cup. It gives us an opportunity, depending on how, you know, the game is, you know, how, if we get through and the draw that we get after it, you know, because it all depends. Winning the cup, it's all about luck, isn't it, Nigel? A lot of luck is with the cup. But we get Aston Villa. Yeah, I mean, it brings Steven Gerrard back to Old Trafford as the first time as a manager. And I'm sure he'll get loads of abuse, won't he, Nigel? They'll be singing the songs about him.
I don't think we'll be singing in full voice at the moment, because we're likely to come unstuck if we're not careful. So it's again, it should be a winnable game. And I guess, I mean, what do you do for Ralf? Do you go for it because the FA Cup maybe represents one, if not the only opportunity for silverware, or do you not? Do you just kind of play the, you know, blood some of the young guns?
I think maybe if you'd have got like a cup draw against somebody like Swindon at home, you could do that. You know, or you got to say something like Colchester, or, you know, a team in the lower leagues. You could make that gamble. I think it's because it's a home game and it's an opportunity to win something. I think you'll have to play strongest team. They have to win something. Plus, I mean, at the end of the day, if they do go out, it only needs a Champions League for them to win. And that you can't just focus on winning the Champions League. That's
too big an ask. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I personally think it's a massive, massive game, and I think that even though you have to have a lot of luck to win the cup, but if you do win something, Van Gaal can say, well, and Mourinho, they are managers that can say, well, yeah, we did win something while we're here.
Yeah.
At the moment they can turn around post Fergie and say, well, we as managers we've won something.
Yeah. And this is the thing, because Ralf, I mean, it's still his opportunity to make a stake for the permanent job, and obviously right now, it doesn't look like he's going to get the job, and so I guess he's really got to go all out. If he brings some silverware, it's an easier sell to the club, isn't it? That stick with me, and I can do this for you.
And also the fans will be on his side, won't they?
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, everybody loves a good cup run, don't they, Nigel?
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, Gerrard's doing quite well, though, isn't he, with Aston Villa? And I think
good season. I thought Villa, they'd obviously got rid of Grealish, and I think they've actually put together, a half decent squad. They played pretty good football. I mean, it depends on who's fit, doesn't it, on the day for them. I mean, they got some good players there. You got like Danny Ings, who's a good player. You've got McGinn in the midfield. These are all decent players, aren't they? On the day. I mean, we've been beaten by them at Old Trafford already this season.
Yeah.
So,
but and that's because it's the same problem. It's the same problem we're facing. Our midfield pairing compared to everybody else in the Premier League is. I mean, people talk about we're like the 12th best, and I think that's quite generous in terms of the midfield pairing. I have us further down. So if we got an average midfield, how can we expect to win anything? How can we expect to be confident going into any game? So he's got to buy somebody. This guy has got no choice. He's got to get somebody in now.
Yeah. So that will be interesting, So Nigel, obviously, we'll get a prediction before we finish off the pod. Do you know what I mean? The Villa game.
Well, I'm assuming that he's going to take 2 days off to really think about things himself, and then he's going to really work on getting some cohesion into that club. He's going to work on some of the problems that he's seen. He's going to get his psychologists getting into the heads of these players. So hopefully, if we're half decent by Monday, is it Monday the game? It's Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, Monday, 5 to 8 kickoff.
Yeah, so for half decent,
so it's January the 10th.
Yeah, then, and if he plays Fred, then I think we've got a chance here. So I'm predicting based on all those things happening, and I'm predicting a 3-1. It'll be tight for ages, and then we'll run away with it at the end.
Oh, okay, that's a good part. I think the magic of the cup. Aston Villa will bring maybe 5,000 to 8,000 fans down.
Yeah,
it's a Monday night. It's floodlight football. I'm gonna go for a 2-0 win. Actually,
yeah, okay.
I'm gonna go for a 2-0 win. Yeah. And then I think usually what happens is that the FA Cup draw will be before the game or at half time. So we'll see who we can get. Do you know what I mean? But I'm looking forward to it because I think that maybe we've got the bad performance out of the way. I mean, we've been coming for a couple of weeks. We talked about the Norwich game, didn't we, Nigel? And so I'm kind of I'm hoping it's gone. It's these players can dust themselves down and get themselves ready. So
Just a quick one though. Back to the old Phil Jones. Do you think he deserves to play the next game? And if Harry comes back in next game, what do you think that says about how much control Ralf really has at the club?
Well, it is quite interesting because at the moment, one thing that I'm seeing is he's not daring to take Ronaldo off. It doesn't matter how badly Ronaldo's playing, he hasn't been taking him off. Now, I don't think that, in fairness to Ralf, to actually sort of Phil Jones, he didn't put a foot wrong. He didn't put a foot wrong in the last game. And it would be interesting because now you have the dynamic that if Maguire comes back and plays badly, people will be asking for Phil Jones to come back. Do you know what I mean?
It's amazing to hear that, but I agree.
it's some redemption.
I know, crikey.
When you think of when, you know, people like yourself were willing to drive him out of Old Trafford.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's commendable because it shows some inner and mental, you know, strength that he's
you've got to salute that. I love that. To be honest, it is, you know, it's a 30 dreams for a reason. And if somebody can come from there and put in a performance like that, and if he does it again consistently, then it's like, wow, power to you, man. You know, I take it all back.
Well, that's right, because I think a lot of people weren't, you know, there were concerns. You know what I mean? United fans, it's concerns. If you put, like I said before, if you put in a stellar performance or a hard-working, grafting performance, then they'll be on your side.
Yeah. 100%.
Where there are concerns where he just didn't seem to be at the level.
Yeah.
You know, he just didn't seem to be at the level, and he was making mistake upon mistake. And maybe the last 2 years have given him enough time to get himself right, you know, physically and mentally, and where he had to be. So, in fairness to Phil Jones, you know, you had a good game and well done. Well, you know, the Red Shirt Podcast, we salute you.
Absolutely.
You know? Exactly. Anyway, Nigel, that brings an end to another Red Shirt Podcast. So, as per usual, we'll say, you know, please watch, like, and subscribe.
Keep that red flag flying.
Thanks very much.
Said with full confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
See you later, fellas.
See you later, guys.